Hi everyone, I'm Sandie La Nae. Welcome to Psychic Creations History Series. Today we have a very interesting show for you. We are going to be visiting the St. Charles Hotel in Carson City, Nevada. Please enjoy the show. The St. Charles Hotel at 310 South Carson Street in Carson City, Nevada. The builders. George W. Remington and Albert Mueller, young men in their 20s, had the foresight to see Carson City's destiny to become the capital of the Nevada Territory. They had further brilliance to build hotels across the street from where, one day, they knew that the Nevada State Capitol building would be raised. Construction began in April of 1862 with the first substantial brick building. This two-story structure would be called the Mueller Hotel. In May of 1862, the three-story brick edifice north of the Mueller Hotel began construction. This building was titled the St. Charles Hotel, named so after the well-reputed hotels in the East. Both hotels were completed and ready for business in August of that year, with 206 total rooms to let. The hotels were built in the Italianate style that was the popular architecture from 1860 to 1890. The typical Italianate commercial structure was 2 or 3 stories high and 1 or 2 storefronts wide. With their nearly flat roofs, wide eaves, and massive brackets, these buildings suggested the hostels of Renaissance Italy. They were often constructed side by side with a shared common wall, such as with the Mueller and St. Charles hotels. The windows are tall and narrow and evenly spaced on the building, with decorative hoods over the top. The cornice lines is the most embellished part of the building and is lined with brackets and other carved features which extend away from the roof. At the time of the construction, the ornamental features of this building would have been painted a contrasting color. At their prime, the Mueller and St. Charles hotels were attractively landscaped with large trees fronting the building, as well as a spacious second-floor balcony that was enjoyed by hotel guests. The Mueller Hotel was marketed towards working-class clientele. As the operators were French, a large corps of French-Canadian woodcutters lodged at the hotel regularly when they were in the region to cut wood for the mines in Virginia City. The St. Charles Hotel was billed by its builders as a first-class hotel and was reported to be the pleasantest resort in Carson and where everything kept by the bar is the best quality. The first advertisement for the St. Charles Hotel appeared in the Silver Sage newspaper on October 2, 1862, posted by George Remington and the new owner, Dan Pliff. The ad announced, "We have the largest and best hotel building in the territory. The Pioneer Stage Company's office is in our house, and the various stages for all parts of Nevada Territory and California made the St. Charles their principal point from which to start and at which to arrive." From the time the building of the hotels was complete to this date, the St. Charles Hotel has had over 20 owners and a multitude of managers. It has also changed names 6 times. It starts with George W. Remington and Albert Mueller, who then sold the hotel to George Tuffley. He owned and operated the hotel from 1865 to 1875. In April of 1875, George turned the operation over to Louis Brader, who was the former manager of the Mueller Hotel. In May of 1877, Brader sold his interest to Moritz Fischer, who then sold it to O.K. Stamp. A series of managers followed until Tuffley put the hotel up for sale in 1890. The Briggs House. In 1890, the St. Charles Hotel was sold to Gilbert Briggs. He then changed the name of the hotel to Briggs Hotel. When the Briggs Hotel and the Mueller Hotel were combined in May of 1894, Briggs then named the collective buildings properties the Briggs House. The Briggs House experienced its share of special events. One occasion saw the rooms filled to capacity with fight fans as the 1897 World Heavyweight Boxing Champion between James J. Corbett and Bob Fitzsimmons was slated for March 17th in Carson City. Beginning in February of 1900 and continuing for 2 years, Briggs posted ads in the Morning Appeal stating, "At the present time, this was the only hotel in Carson City that is lighted exclusively by electricity. It is the best $1 a day house on the coast." In 1907, Briggs sold the hotel and restaurant to Swedish immigrant John Anderson. 1910 marked the opening of the hotel's new name, the Golden West Hotel. Daily rates were $1.25 and $2. William Ballard was manager for 2 years, turning the job over to both J.W. Hale and William Ricker for the duration of Anderson's ownership of the hotel. Catherine Richards purchased the hotel property from the Anderson estate, continuing the custom of a lodging and rooming house until 1928, when the name of the hotel was changed to the Travelers Hotel. In 1929, the city directory lists the hotel under the management of Robert Weir. In 1934, Bruno Perry purchased the hotel. At that time, Carson City had less than 2,000 residents and was the smallest state capital in the country. Perry also managed the hotel until 1946, when the name was changed to the Page Hotel. George and Edith Page owned the hotel until 1949. The hotel now also housed a casino, as the Pages had received an unrestricted gaming license from the Nevada Tax Commission. It happened to be the first time the state of Nevada issued a gaming license for more than slot machines or table games since March 20th, 1931, when gambling was again legalized in the state. Robert Falkerts and Emery Goggins Jr. ran the hotel's operation for 1 year until 1949, when the hotel was once again sold, being purchased by Harry and Irma Maupin. The Maupins gave the hotel a major facelift in 1953. Stucco was used to cover over the brick, and the casino was refurbished. An Art Deco marquee finished the look, advertising the hotel, casino, and cocktail lounge. The Greyhound bus depot was now housed within. Shortly after the 1953 overhaul, the then newest of the hostelry owners, Lester and Sylvia DeChene, changed the hotel's name to the Pony Express Hotel. The title was chosen because they presumed the hotel was a Pony Express stop, but that service was discontinued almost a year before the Mueller and St. Charles Hotel were completed in the first place. The Pony Express Hotel lasted 40 years. In that time, the building, as did the surrounding structures, deteriorated, declined, weakened, and faded into eyesores. This whole part of Carson City became a blemish on the town, a place where no one wanted to go or should go. St. Charles, once a magnificent hotel, sat crumbling, waiting for the person who would restore it to its former splendor of a bygone age. That person arrived in November of 1993. Robert C. McFadden bought the hotel from the latest of owners, Dennis and Penny Sayan. He returned the rundown structure to its original name, the St. Charles Hotel, and not only became a savior to the hostelry, Bob became the best friend to this section of Carson City. When Bob McFadden came onto the scene, the St. Charles Hotel and surrounding buildings had depreciated into a civic embarrassment. It was an area of $35 a night flop houses and dive bars that occupied the ground floor of St. Charles. This section of town was most definitely Carson City's Skid Row. For example, across the street from the hotel, in a dilapidated building, the FBI found a 10 most wanted fugitive hiding out. Bob McFadden was 45 years old when he purchased the St. Charles Hotel, and for the next 10 years he extended much time, energy, and finances to bring the St. Charles out of its squalor. After 10 years of hard work, though, McFadden decided to sell the hotel in 2004. On October 22nd, Mark and Jenny Lopiccolo purchased the St. Charles Hotel. As fate would have it, 3 weeks later, on November 16th, Robert C. McFadden died of a heart attack. The Lopiccolos continued the renovations that Bob McFadden started. They added new plumbing, updated electric wiring, installed central heating, added iron fencing, and the columns that were part of the original design were replaced. Much time and finance were put into strengthening the structure, replacing and enforcing the walls, making sure the St. Charles Hotel is around for centuries more. The St. Charles Hotel was one of the state's most elegant hotels, with celebrity, politicians, the famous and noted personalities of the time seeking accommodations there. In later times, many spent their last days living at the hotel. Remington and Mueller's vision of their hostelry's location was true in sight, as throughout the years of many legislation from the Nevada Territory and the state of Nevada, senators, assemblymen, aides, representatives, and numerous other executives have stayed at the St. Charles Hotel for the duration of their sessions. Some senators and assemblymen became volunteer firemen. During one fire that broke out in February of 1865, the wooden story structure that sat at the rear of the St. Charles, which was used as a kitchen below with lodging quarters above, and the hotel's outhouses were badly damaged. Both the Mueller and St. Charles hotels and the Pioneer Stage Company's stables were saved from burning by great involvedness. Senators and assemblymen who were currently in session at the Capitol rushed to help by manning the brakes and handling the hoses. The most notable proprietor was George Tuffley. Tuffley was a native of Switzerland and came to Carson City in late 1863. He managed the Mueller Hotel for 2 years, and as an adept businessman, Tuffley purchased the St. Charles Hotel in 1865 and then began repairs and renovations. After a couple of fires, one taking out the wooden kitchen that sat away from the building on the west side, Tuffley, in his renovations, was the first person to use fireproofing in the building, which usually was a mixture of dirt and brick dust. When reconstructions were complete, the Daily Appeal newspaper noted that the June 10th grand opening was a blowout and proudly declared that the bar and office room is much the elegant public apartment in Carson. By 1872, the St. Charles Hotel could boast that it had gas utilities. Grand accommodations indeed. Tuffley was a busy man along with running the hotel. In 1870, he helped raise money to establish the Nevada Orphans Home. George also won the state treasurer election, the eldest man ever elected, at age 69 in 1882. Tuffley had another esteemed title, that being the grandfather of Richard Jose, who was America's foremost contratenor, a sensation on 3 continents. Jose was claimed as the greatest tenor the world had ever known. One personality who visited the esteemed hotel before purchasing a home in Carson City was the aforementioned famed stagecoach driver Hank Monk. Monk drove for the Pioneer Stage Company with Carson City's terminus at the St. Charles Hotel. In tribute to Hank Monk, upon seeing his quarters, you'll observe just how small some of the hotel's lodgings were. Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, was said to have stayed in the St. Charles Hotel while reporting on the 3rd Territorial Legislature in 1864 for the Territorial Enterprise newspaper. George Thompson, owner of the hotel in the 1950s, was proud to brag to anyone who listened that Mark Twain stayed in his hotel. On a personal slant, George and Sophie Tuffley had a daughter, Louise Caroline, who was considered the belle of Carson, as she was quite beautiful, could play the piano expertly and sing as sweetly as a bird. One day comes strolling along a suitor by the name of Samuel Clemens. He felt it was time he courted the lovely Louise Tufley. But Father George and Mother Sophie thought those two were becoming too well acquainted. So one day George announced to all that would listen, "Clemens wears yellow breeches and sponges off his brother Orion too much." And so Father George and Mother Sophie, like any good parents of the time would do, broke off their 17-year-old daughter's engagement to the scandalous and sponging Samuel. Rodeo showgirl and stage actress Ada Isaacs Menken is believed to have stayed in the St. Charles Hotel as she traveled with her troupe around the West. Ada was quite a different showgirl, as she would perform in a scandalous state of undress while on stage, and as she seductively rode a horse on rodeo demonstrations. One of the most recent celebrities who actually lived in the hotel was the professional heavyweight boxing champion, Larry "Fighting Irish Pat" Duncan. Duncan fought many contenders, including greats like Don Staub, Dwayne Bobick, Andy Narcosti, Ernie Shavers, and Joe Bugner. He was also George Foreman's sparring partner and was only one bout away from a championship date with Muhammad Ali, but lost that bout in 1974. After his boxing career, Larry retired and he met some physical challenges. One day, he decided not to take his heart medicine any longer, and he lived his last 7 months alone at the St. Charles Hotel, passing away in 2004 at the age of 55. Did you know that a famous movie was filmed in the St. Charles Hotel? Yes, the ending scenes of Honky Tonk Man, starring Clint Eastwood and his son Kyle, were filmed at the St. Charles Hotel in rooms 217 and 218. The hutch built for the kitchen scene was too big to take out of a door or window, so it was left in the hotel room. This movie's release date was December 15, 1982. To conclude, to date, the combined St. Charles Mueller Hotel is one of the oldest remaining commercial buildings in Carson City and the second oldest hotel in the state. St. Charles Hotel holds the record of being the oldest continuously operating hostelry in the state of Nevada. And this hotel was listed in the National Register of Historic Places of the United States on May 27, 1982. Thank you very much for watching Psychic Creations History Series. If you would like to be a special guest on my show, you can contact me at my website, which is www.sandypsychicstones.com, or at my email address, which is admin@sandypsychicstones.com. Thank you again for watching Psychic Creations History Series, and remember, history created who we are today.